Hello and welcome to another edition of Election 360, coming to you from our studio here at Adisawe Kanda in Accra. Today, we'll be looking at the indefinite suspension of Parliament and its attendant impact on government policies ahead of the 2024 elections. Also, we'll take you to some specific constituencies on Constituency Watch, where we'll focus on the Agona West constituency, where the current Member of Parliament is seeking a rerun as an independent candidate. What does that mean for the dynamics of that particular constituency? Details of that and more coming up. Welcome to the show. This is Election 360. I am Martin Asiedu-Dati. Joining me in studio very shortly will be my colleague Eric Mawana-Egbeta, where we'll try and dissect exactly what has happened in Parliament, what it really means, especially for the House, and, by extension, how the whole politics is going to be playing out in the next few weeks, or probably a month and a half as we gear up to December 7. Let's go straight to the magic wall and then engage Eric Mawana-Egbeta now. And you know that the Speaker of the House yesterday, Alban Kingsford Sumana Bagbin, some said he under-delivered or shocked everybody with his final decision. But what does that really mean when we talk about the politics of things in Parliament? Eric, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure, Martin.
First of all, there is an indefinite suspension of Parliament. Definitely, the House was supposed to sit to consider a number of bills, which we are very much aware that is not going to happen. Talk to us about which bills were to be considered by this current Parliament.
So there's a big looming question about the politics of everything that transpired yesterday. And one thing which transcends all of the arguments from the floor yesterday and this continuous debate, which side occupies the majority, is a big Galamsey question, which has become political as well. And we know in the lead up to the resumption of Parliament, there was a big conversation in relation to the illegal mining menace and its fight. And one of the key cogs, in fact, in dealing with the illegal mining menace had to do with the repeal of Li-2462. That's a law allowing mining in forest reserves. It is up here, perhaps, as the biggest of what we're seeing because of the implications. We've heard government continuously make the argument, even though we here have proof that that assertion by spokespersons from the government is not entirely accurate, in that they make the claim that the 2020 fight against illegal mining cost the government in terms of the seats that they enjoy. They had well over 32 seats, 32 to be specific, but they suffered major losses, which resulted in the parity that we've seen in Parliament, and even why the decision to declare these 4 seats vacant has even become topical. Otherwise, if the balance of scale in terms of the composition and the numbers didn't really matter, nobody will be having a conversation, and perhaps there would not be the need to have to adjourn indefinitely. And so this comes up strongly as one of the many things that sticks its head out, Li-2462, the repeal of the law allowing mining in forest reserves. Now, if we want to move away from that into...
And maybe before we move on, just to avert our viewers' minds to why this has become very important now, it is also because organized labor decided to go on strike, and one of the reasons they changed their mind was because government had promised them that I was going to initiate moves to repeal that particular law in Parliament. So organized labor suspended their strike
in a look-up to this happening.
Government's promise that they were going to repeal it. So it is still very strong, and we don't know what organized labor makes of this following the disparity in Parliament at the moment.
Absolutely fantastic point. But another thing of notice is that the law in its current state has been suspended. The president ordered its the suspension of implementation, awaiting the final repeal in Parliament. We'll wait to see whether or not there is ever a chance to be able to do that now that Parliament has been adjourned indefinitely. Now, in terms of the governance aspect, the budget is of critical importance. Many of you watching at home will be asking that question, why the budget? Well, we're an election year, and it's not the same government which will be continuing in 2025. There will be a new government which is very much politics and have everything to do with elections. Whether it be an NPP government or an NDC government, there will be a different president at the helm of affairs by 2025. And so there's a need for a budget for the first quarter of 2025. That was expected or is expected to be presented by the finance minister during the sitting of Parliament, or this dying days of the 8th Parliament. That is hanging in limbo, and we've been hearing a lot of the MPs make the argument that, look, even after elections, we could return and have this taken. But as to whether or not the Supreme Court would have heard the cases and a lot of the determination would have happened such that we will not return after elections to have this whole argument of I'm on the majority, you're on the minority, still linger, this becomes a big subject area of concern. Then there is a possibility of midnight appointment having to do with possible interventions that the government will want to make in terms of replacing individuals, making fresh appointment to certain agencies. We know there are 2 Supreme Court justice nominees whose approval is pending in Parliament. That's outside of there could be other appointments that could come through from the government, which at this point in time, they cannot see through because of this indefinite suspension. Then there's a mention of bills, the free SHS bill, a very political subject in terms of elections, because a lot of political analysts had made the point that, look, the currency and the value of free SHS in deciding and determining in what way voters will decide to go was waning. But it looks like the government sought to find an interesting way to bring it about. In the conversation of a review mean a cancellation, they said they were introducing a free SHS bill which will ensure that there is continuity. Even if the NPP should lose, or even if they continue, there is that assurance that the free SHS policy which was introduced by President Akufo-Addo will stay on. That, in fact, was supposed to be one of the many things which could have been laid on the floor yesterday before the indefinite adjournment. And so these are the many things which, hanging still, we do not have an idea that when we could come back and then all of these considerations could be made, Martin. And
another interesting point to note, like yesterday when we were discussing, you know, the developments from Parliament, it was poignant to note that many agreed that the person or the group of persons that are likely to suffer the most are the government and the NPP, because they still have business to do, or they need business expedited in Parliament. So they actually need the numbers in Parliament. And like you're indicating, the budget, for instance, cuts both ways. Irrespective of who becomes the next government or forms the next government, will need a certain budget to run the economy or
at least the first quarter, first 3 months, very important.
Of the next year. And then these appointments and maybe the bill, these ones fall heavily on the lap of the current administration, because the 3 arms of government have some, you know, overlapping positions, or they need to coordinate to work for the country to still run. And if you do not have the legislature in office or working
full session,
yes, the executive is likely to have some challenges. Same way, even for the judiciary, because there is some thread that runs through all of them, and they need that coordination. So Parliament suspension is a major blot on how the country is supposed to be running. And it's good you also mentioned the free SHS bill and other key bills and some loan agreements that the current Parliament
in terms of the loan agreement, we know that on the governance aspect and maybe on the economic front, which continue to bear significance in terms of how this election could go. We're expecting a review of from the IMF in terms of our 3-year extended credit facility program that we're under. That could come with certain loan facilities that need to be agreed upon. And we've detailed a number of these loan facilities, which are all in Parliament, and which could contribute in whether or not we get the check mark from the IMF, which will bolster economic growth and development and will translate into some positive action for the government in seeking to be able to break that. And so it's all quite important, and that point you made is very important, that it needs to be reiterated again and again. This indefinite suspension or this indefinite adjournment of Parliament in any way or any way you want to look at it affects the governing New Patriotic Party the most, Martin.
All right, thank you very much for walking us through developments of Parliament, and clearly it looks as though on the face of it you just think it's majority and minority having a go at each other, and the speaker saying, all of you go home, let's think through it, because there's a case in court. However, if you look deeper or you peel off the other pages of this current situation, there are major developments underneath, and it's likely that if Parliament is not recalled as soon as possible for all of this to get done, then we are likely to be having a constitutional crisis that many had feared was likely to play out in Parliament yesterday. You're still watching Election360 on TV3. Let's go on to some other related subject matters. Like you heard as mentioned, the issue of Galamsey is a major problem for the government, who's been struggling to get it resolved. And there are demands to have that particular issue resolved. We asked some of you, ordinary Ghanaian on the streets, how government is handling the Galamsey fight. And these are the views you shared with us.
The government acts right now. I'm not sure you're going to get votes from Galamsey. And now that he's not acting, you have people who are really concerned about water bodies. Those people are not going to vote for him. So I think the government thinks the Galamseyers are more than the people who are more concerned with our water bodies. So then we think about getting votes from the Galamseyers. That's what I see.
I think the elections coming up too is a factor, because if government says they're going to pay heed to the protesters, what about those working in that sector, the Galamsey sector? They would lose votes in that sector too as well. Already, the current government have lost a lot of votes. I won't lie on that part. They've lost a lot of votes. So it's like they are careful. If they take action now, it's going to affect one part of people, and then the other part, even though one part is going to benefit, the other part is going to lose.
I'm not going to win. And I feel like because the president knows that his term has ended, he's not going to be in power again. He can't contest again. He's not really trying to do anything, because I saw even on social media that he has left the vice president in power, and since he is contesting to be a president, this is the time for him to show his leadership skills. So all these things being considered, I think that is why they are not doing anything about the Stop Galamsey movement.
Again, I will address Galamsey from the angle of its solution, not necessarily about shifting the blames. Moreover, I think where we are now as a nation, Galamsey isn't a political issue we should even discuss. It should be a national issue we should all involve ourselves in. The certain government, being the MPP government, one way or the other, I won't blame them that much, in the sense that Galamsey started even before independence. Galamsey has been there for so many years now. The reason behind Galamsey being a rampant act at this moment is that politicians have been trying to make that a political topic. And if that happens, everyone tries to fight in his own interest. Moreover, I think at this point, he has to also serve the interest of his people. I am not tolerating the fact that he's not talking about it. But I think what he is doing, he's trying to save his people from losing their seats. Because they lost Takwa as one of their strongholds as a political party, and other 20 parliamentary seats as a result of fighting this Galamsey. And I'm asking a rhetorical question out there. If it were to be you, will you continue to fight this thing again?
And so you're back here on Election 360. Let's now pay attention to the political parties because their constitutions either have strict rules against cross-carpeting or the parties have enforced disciplinary proceedings against such MPs. We'll walk you through what the two constitutions of the leading parties in the country, the New Patriotic Party and then the National Democratic Congress, says in relation to the forfeiture of membership and what has become this very heated conversation. It's headed to the Supreme Court. We know that yesterday we saw the Attorney General's position as well in relation to that case, which is expected to receive some expedited hearing now that it's taken this turn. And I'm still here. Martin, as you've always had here, is walking us through the details as we've had it. And so this is what we have in terms of the NPP's constitution, Martin, and take it away for us and
so
what really it says.
Yeah, I believe that even before we come to this, it ties into the current challenges we have in Parliament, where on the day that the NDC decided to draw the Speaker's attention or ask the Speaker to declare 4 seats vacant, the argument that was being made by the other side was that, one, in the case that we are referring to as the precedent, where the Fomena MP, the Speaker of the House wrote to the Fomena MP and asked for a response, right? And it was because the NPP as a political party had written to the Speaker to tell him that this individual who is on the ticket of the NPP, we want him kicked out because he has decided to go independent. So there is the party writing to the Speaker and then action was taken from there. However, many need to avert their minds to the fact that this is what the NPP's constitution says. The NDC would look at later, but in the NPP's constitution, it says that a member of the party who stands as an independent candidate against the officially elected member of the party, or who joins or declares his or her support for another political party or for an independent candidate, when the party has sponsored a candidate in a general or by-election, automatically forfeits his or her membership of the party. Indirectly saying that whoever came on the ticket of the NPP, immediately you say you are no more going to be on that ticket, you want another ticket, or you're crossing to another party, or you want to go independent, you forfeit your membership of the NPP.
And it's important to note that it's not just for members of Parliament who are deciding to contest or go independent. It is also specific to, as a party member, openly supporting a candidate other than one that's been sponsored by the party. In the case of Hobson Adoye, and then the former Medina MP as well, no, Adenta MP, I should say. In their cases, when they decided to back the candidature of Alan Tremantin, who decided to resign from the party and form the Movement for Change, we saw the statement as released by the party detailing the basis upon which they were no longer members. And it was captured. This particular provision of the New Patriotic Party's constitution was the basis upon which they arrived at that conclusion. And so it goes beyond just this fresh arguments that we're having and the decision to whether or not the party needs to be writing to the Speaker before the processes can kick in. It goes beyond that, because it affects individuals even who are not necessarily holding positions but are deciding to throw their weight behind an independent. So you could be in a constituency and you decide to say Agona West MP, you decide that as a party member you are supporting her candidature instead of the duly elected NPP parliamentary candidate. What this provision states is that you automatically forfeit your membership.
You know,
of
but
the NPP.
you know, it also raises the concern about the party not being truthful to its own dictates in their constitution. In that, if you look critically at what happened in Fomena, then the party members, probably almost all of them, have been card-bearing members in the constituency who supported Andrew Esiama when he decided to go independent. They all need to lose their party membership. Technically, if you look at it, because it is open support for someone who is not on the ticket of the party. But that's when you stretch it to some levels.
For in the terms of an argument of convenience, the New Patriotic Party will not
and even in the current
be
situation,
interested.
The current situation, if this is anything to go by, then the party immediately, some of those candidates decided or made public declaration that they were going independent. The
should have been issuing statements.
Yes, they should
in that regard.
You know, so
because even yesterday we've got word from Cynthia Morrison that, look, yes, she was there yesterday, met with leadership of the NPP in Parliament, but she's not rescinded her decision to go independent. She should be going against this particular provision of the NPP's constitution. But let's switch our attention to the NDC now. And interestingly, they really do not have a specific provision about forfeiture of membership if you decide to go independent. Their argument is that, they do not have a specific such provision, but members are required
in their constitution.
Absolutely, but members are required to be loyal. And in the case of precedent, they have one in 2020 where the party's disciplinary committee sacked as many as 18 members for filing to contest as independent candidates in the 2020 elections. And so it springs forth the conversation of what really is a loud silence from both sides. Because the arguments we're having in relation to this 8th Parliament cuts across both divide. The NDC has one candidate who has decided to go independent, and if anything, the disciplinary committee should be being invited to begin processes, be asking questions, and possibly be sacking this set member of Parliament, the Honourable Laka. And in the case of the NPP as well, the party should not be quiet, particularly when Professor Michael Quay has been making the case strongly that, look, it had to take the party to write to him to be able to take the necessary steps in removing the then former MP on the ticket of the NPP. Both parties have been silent because in this particular case, it's convenient.
Some slack, but although they also have some precedent, we can cut them a bit of slack because we do not have in the current
specific provisions
in their constitution. So it is an as and when situation for the NDC. But the NPP, it is expressly written in their constitution, and they triggered it when it was convenient for them. But if they dare do that now, it will be political suicide, how some have described it. You're still watching Election360, and we are now going to move away from Parliament and its attendant issues to Constituency Watch. Well, probably still related, though, because whoever wins a constituency will be headed to Parliament. Anyway, so for this particular constituency, we're talking about the Agona West constituency. And what has happened is that, all right, so let's bring the intro to that, and then we'll bring you the details of the Constituency Watch. Welcome back to Election360, and like we indicated, it's time for Constituency Watch. Now we take you to the Agona West constituency, and it's one of the constituencies under controversy in Parliament that has actually been declared vacant by the Speaker of the House. Let's walk you through some of the numbers, how they have acted in terms of voting in the last few elections. So, for the parliamentary election results since 1996, the Agona West constituency, which is in the central region, has predominantly voted in favor of the New Patriotic Party. So 96 and 2012 were the only times that the NDC won parliamentary seats in the Agona West constituency. However, the MPP won it in 2000 and 2004. Mind you, that was John Ajekum Kufuor's era, the first time the New Patriotic Party as a political party became government or formed the government. Then in 2008 and 2016, they held on to it. And so between 2008 and 2016, the 2012 election that happened in between then, that was when the NDC won it. Now, you'd recall that in 2012, that's when John Dramani Mahama of the NDC came on the back of former President John Evans Atta Mills's demise. So it was clear that at that time, many agreed that there was what can be easily described as sympathy votes that the NDC got. So they won it in 2012. However, it quickly reverted to the NPP in 2016 and 2020, they retained it. Now, 2016, 2020, that was when Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo became president. They won it, and then they managed to retain it. But going into 2024, we are uncertain how it's going to play out. Now, let's look at the presidential results. Presidential results since 2016. Like we indicated, the Agona West constituency is strongly an MPP seat, or for presidential elections, they've won it many more times than the NDC. So you can see, since 96 that the NDC won it, the NPP has been quite predominant in that area, in that constituency, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012. Now, in the parliamentary, let me take you back to the parliamentary. I mentioned 2012 when John Dramani Mahama got a lot of sympathy votes, as some have described it. But that was just for the parliamentary results. Even when you go to the presidential results, the NPP still won majority of votes in the Agona West constituency in 2012. 2016, 2020, they have retained it. So our guess would be that going into the 2024 elections, how is it going to be? Would it still be a predominantly strong NPP constituency where they vote for the NPP's parliamentary candidate and the presidential candidate, or we are likely to see some changes? Now, the controversy around whether or not the voting will go is because of this lady in question, Cynthia Mamle Morrison. We interviewed her yesterday. We've spoken to her a number of times. She has decided to leave the NPP to go as an independent candidate. So there is also another independent candidate in the constituency in the person of Ishmael Kofi Techi-Texon. Now, if these numbers are anything to go by, and these are the results they polled from the last election, the 2020 elections. If it's anything to go by, if you look at the vote difference, 30,513 was what the NPP's candidate got for the parliamentary elections. 30,513. The NDC candidate got 27,673. Comparatively, this probably will be a difference of about 2,000 votes. 2,000 votes. The independent candidate in 2020 got 1,007 votes. So if Cynthia Mamle Morrison decides to go, and actually has decided to go as an independent candidate, there is another independent candidate, and then the NPP's candidate himself would also be contesting. It is very likely that the 30,000 that the NPP got in 2020 is very likely to be split. Now, if that is split, we are likely to have some challenges for an out-and-out winner. On your screens also, you can see the results from the last elections, like I indicated. So 30,530 for the NPP, 27,000 for the NDC, and 2,000 is the difference, like I indicated, just a difference of about 2,000. Let's say we can push it to 2,900 or say 3,000 votes. If Cynthia Mamle Morrison, the NPP candidate, goes independent, the NDC even maintains their 27,000, then there's a likelihood that we may not have the current NPP win that has dominated over time repeating itself. So it's one of the constituencies to keep a very close eye on now that the seat has been declared vacant by the Speaker and also its attendant issues. So for those of you in that constituency, do let us know what the sentiments are on the ground, and we'll be happy to share that with the rest of the viewing public. Still on that constituency, though, still on Constituency Watch, though, we are moving from the Central Region to the Greater Accra Region. This time we're going to the Krowo constituency, where my colleague Safo Abuahene visited the area and reports that the constituents expect a tight race between the NPP and the NDC.
The jarring haphazard movement of the car, violently swaying passengers from left to right, is a familiar bone-rattling experience for the residents of Nungwa in the Krowo constituency, who brave these treacherous roads day in, day out. And this is basically one of the peri-urban roads we are on right now. And now the deplorable state of these roads, amidst other myriad of problems, are a constant source of frustration and hardships for the community. The Krowa constituency is situated entirely within the Lejokuku Krowa municipal district of the Greater Accra region, with its capital Nungwa known for their vibrant communities and cultural significance. Nungwa Barrier is a very popular place and an integral part of the Krowa constituency, and the road leads to very major places in the Greater Accra region, including Accra, Tema, Sakumono, and others. We have been engaging with daily commuters of the road, and they tell us the construction has been going on for a very long time, which is impeding their movement because it's affecting the road that they use.
Our biggest challenge is our road. Our MP said she's waiting for her president to come into power before she can fix the road, and it's already with the contractor. Someone filled the road with stone chips, but the rain washed them into this hole.
They always convince us they will fix the road, but they never do it. You won't agree this time.
The
authorities want something bad to happen before they listen to our plight. We beg them, constructing the road will benefit the people, but it's in a terrible state.
The
Nungwa Barrier Road is very bad. It is affecting us, the drivers. We plead with the government to work on it for us.
The market women voiced their dissatisfaction on the deplorable state of the marketplace.
This place smells, and an old man even fell due to the gutter they dug out. I am to pay 2,600 cedis to AMA and internal revenue as tax, but they aren't doing the needful.
The fisher folks also expressed their concerns over the need for a sea defense.
All the MPs who came promised to do a sea defense for us, but nothing is happening. Not even one person amongst us will vote if nothing is done.
The Krowa constituency has a population of 143,012, with a higher voter turnout of about 101,825 during the 2020 elections. The political landscape of the constituency has seen fluctuations between the NPP and the NDC since 1992. But the trend shows a shift in voter preference for the NDC in the 2020 elections, presenting Agnes Namomo Lati, who won with 41,850 votes against the NPP Elizabeth Afolikwe with 32,704. As we approach the 2024 elections, several key issues are dominating the political discourse in the Krowa constituency. And according to residents, they will ultimately support and cast their votes for the leader who demonstrates a genuine concern for the well-being of the people. Safo Abuahine, TV3 News, Krowa constituency.
Right, so that's what the voice of the constituents clearly are pointing to, that they need development, they need some sanity in the area, or sanitation is a major concern for them, and also infrastructural development. But let's look at the win and loss ratios in the constituency. Krowa constituency is what we are talking about. Since 96 results, the presidential has always favored the NDC. So watch this carefully. In 2020, from 2000, so 96, let me start. From 96, NDC won a presidential. 2000, NDC, 96, 2008, 2012, and 2020, NDC won it. So NDC has won it 4 times. The NPP has won it 3 times in 2000, 2004, and in 2016. Now pay attention to the years that the NPP won it. In 2000, 2004, John Agyekum Kufuor's presidency. Then the next time they won the presidential result in that constituency was in 2016 when Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was president or became the president of the republic. In the, when you go to the side of the NDC, they won it in 96, in 2008, in 2012, 2012 again, recall John Dramani Mahama becoming the president on the back of the demise of John Evans Atta Mills. Then in 2020 as well, the NDC has won it. Now, that's the presidential results. Let me show you the differences when it comes to the parliamentary results. It looks as though it's pretty much the same. 2000, 2004, John Agyekum Kufuor's governance period, and in 2016, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's period. Now, although Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is president in 2016 and 2020, the parliamentary results changed where the NDC won 2020 parliamentary seat in Krowa. However, the NDC did not form the executive or did not win the national elections. So the party remained in opposition. However, in opposition in parliament. However, the national elections was won by the NPP. So that is a key difference you need to pay attention to. That in 2020, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo won Ghana's elections, but in Krowa specifically, the NDC won the parliamentary seat. So that's actually one of the constituencies we'll be keeping an eye on. It looks as though it is a swing constituency in a swing region, but we'll see how 2024 will play out going forward. And these are the candidates that are contesting in the elections. We have Agnes Na, Momo Late, and then also Emmanuel Odai Lai, representing the NPP. NDC NPP clearly is a straight call. We'll see what happens in the elections on December 7. That's it for Constituency Watch. Let's go on to some other stories now. All right, before we go and hit the campaign trail, let's take a quick breather. We'll be back with more.
The most comprehensive election coverage.
Top-notch presenters and well-versed analysts.
Dedicated reporters and correspondents.
Welcome back to Election360 on TV3. We are your election command center. We are hitting the campaign trail now and go straight to the camp of the New Patriotic Party. The flag bearer of the party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has criticized the National Democratic Congress Member of Parliament for rushing to be the majority side of the House. Addressing party faithfuls at Ho Central in the Volta region, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia says that the NDC is panicking that it will lose the upcoming elections. He says the NPP will remain focused and will not be distracted and will ensure that it wins the upcoming elections with a massive result. So let's listen in to what exactly the flag bearer has been saying. Then we'll definitely speak to our correspondent who is following that particular campaign trail for us. Yes, Dr. Bawumia.
The NDC knows that they are losing this election. They know that we are winning this election. So they are panicking. Just think about it. We have 6 weeks to an election. And they are all only concerned is that they want to be a majority for 6 weeks, when you have been a minority for 8 years. Why? What is the rush? Because they know they have lost the election.
Well, that is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in the Volta region, known to be the stronghold of the National Democratic Congress. If so, it begs the question, who are those supporters there? Are they NDC people dressed as NPP supporters, or these are genuine NPP supporters in the Volta region? We'll go to the phone lines to speak to Daniel Opoku, who is our man following Dr. Bawumia's campaign trail, and then also try and put the Volta region generally in perspective for you. Mind you, it is the 7th highest region in terms of total registered voters. It is the 7th. Greater Accra, Ashanti region first and second. The 7th is the Volta region. We'll look at the numbers. It's about 900,000, a little over that. We'll put those numbers in perspective for you and see how the voting pattern has been since 1996. For now, I'm sure we have Daniel Opoku with us. Daniel, thank you for joining us. Where exactly has the Vice President, or I should say the NPP's flag bearer, been? And what has the message really been to the constituents? What the responses as well?
Right, so good morning to you, Martin. I'm currently the Vice President is at Georgia in the Kitchen North District, where Kitchen North constituency, that is a place for Honorable Abegi, that's his constituency. Currently, that's where the Vice President is. And he with the senior high school. Normally, when he begins his activities every morning, he tries to engage what he calls the stakeholders. The stakeholders are the clergy, the traditional leaders, and also the clerics in the community. Currently, that's what he's doing, and the message that he is telling them. One, he has structured the message in such a way that the first part, he emphasized on what government together with him have been able to do. For instance, the drone policy, the digitalization program, and also trying to improve the health facilities in the country. And then what the second part of his message looks at his future plan in case he wins power. One, he talks about agriculture, also talk about the need to empower women through some kind of soft loans to support them to do their business. Martin, when it comes to business, they are predominantly farmers, and what they do is they do rice production. So Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has been telling them that in case they vote for him to win power, then he's going to set up a mechanized system of farming for them, where they'll be able to get a lot of resources from him or from government to be able to produce a lot of rice, where there'll be a cut on rice importation in this country. And the message from the Vice President has been very consistent ever since he started campaign from Monday up to now, trying to win the people to vote for him. This morning when he came to Georgia, he was really got a very good and rousing welcome from both the students and the traditional leaders. So realize that gradually the MPP is gaining grounds within the Volta region, even though it's a stronghold, traditionally it's a stronghold of the NDC.
All right, Daniel Opoku, thank you for that report. He is with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the NPP's flag bearer, and they have been campaigning for the last 3 to 4 days in the Volta region, crisscrossing the entire length and breadth of that region. Why? It is of importance because the NPP wants to make significant inroads in that region. For the first time since we started voting, the NPP has won one constituency in the Volta region. Let's speak to our Volta regional correspondent, Faisal Abdul Idris, who has joined us via Zoom for a quick analysis of the region. Faisal, thank you for joining us. First of all, what's the political temperature in the region generally like with a few days to the elections?
Well, the Volta region has been relatively calm. It's a region without too many issues when it comes to the issues of politics. It's not a place you find issues of violence all the time. And so the region is relatively calm. And I mean, the campaign activities from all political parties is moving on smoothly.
Right. We know that there was a concern that, I mean, in 2016, for instance, some constituents in the Volta region had issues with the NDC, which predominantly wins there. They said that they had been turned into the voter region, means they just vote for the NDC, so they are the voter region, not Volta region. But what impact is NPP making now that they've been able to win one seat? Is it likely to increase, or is the NDC likely to claw back that one seat the NPP has now?
Well, it is true the Volta region remains a stronghold of the NDC. From 1992 up until the 2000 elections, the MPP hardly got any votes in the Volta region. Now, in 2016, the MPP got over 130,000 votes from the Volta region. That dropped slightly to somewhere around 100,000 in 2020. The same way the NDC home vote, which was proving around 600,000 plus, also dropped to barely 600,000. So voter apathy set in 2020. But of course, there has been this issue among voters who say that the NDC over time hasn't really developed the region the way they expected. And that actually affected the outcome of the elections in the Volta region in 2016 and 2020. So you realize that the voter turnout in the Volta region is dropping gradually. Like you rightly mentioned, the MPP got a seat in Kokwe in 2020. But now, as we gear up into the elections, the Kokwe seat, as things are panning out currently, it's not really a done deal for John Peter Amaru. Recent events, including the turnout for the filing process for both candidates, the NDC's candidate for Walanyo Chekpo and then John Peter Amaru, indicates that indeed there's going to be another battle in Kokwe. Mind you, the last election in Kokwe, John Peter Amaru won that election with some 5,000 votes gap. There were issues of the exclusion of South. There were issues of NDC persons going out to vote for John Peter Amaru. There is also the indication that a lot of the people who voted for Amaru in 2020, who were NDC people, have returned. And so there is going to be a battle in Kokwe, no doubt about that. Now, apart from Kokwe, the MPP usually got votes from the Ketu North constituency. Now, with the emergence of Edem Agbana and another candidate who is new to the state for the MPP, Enoch Amagboleto, indeed, there's going to be a contest there.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you a lot, Faisal, for those updates and analysis of the Volta region. Certainly here at your Election Command Center, we'll be doing more of these kinds of regional specific analysis for you to know how the trends are shaping up. And let me walk you through how the pattern has been for the Volta region since '96, like we indicated. You can tell right at the very top that the NDC has been very comfortable at the top. And I indicated that in 2016, when the NPP managed to get one seat in the region, the numbers of the NPP went up. So in 2012, they had about just 7.4% of total votes that were cast. And that same year, the NDC had its second highest number of votes, 91.4%. And that is when John Dramani Mahama became president. It dropped in 2016, where NPP won. Now, although NPP won national elections, in the country, the NDC's margin in the Volta region was still quite high. Although it dropped marginally from 91.4 to 87.7, they dropped and further dropped in 2020 as well. 2024, if this is anything to go by, it's very likely that the trajectory of the NDC will continue, but we do not know whether to go up or down based on the current developments. Further analysis and breakdown of this will be live on your Election Command Center for you. That's it for our show today. Thank you for watching. I am Martin Esiedudate. Hasta la vista.